The 10 best silent sci-fi movies. They don't have to talk to make these the best. Original, daring, and thought-provoking, the sci-fi genre compels audiences to see beyond their wildest dreams into a future full of dangers and possibilities. Science fiction reached a new height in the new millennium, but it has been around cinema since its inception. In fact, and contrary to what many believe, sci-fi is one of the genres that built Hollywood. The silent era produced many incredible and now iconic sci-fi films. It's fascinating to look back at them and see how perceptions about the future have changed. More importantly, it's impressive to see how great they hold up, even under a modern perception. Number 10. Elita in 1924. The 1924 Soviet silent sci-fi Elita was directed by Yavuk Protazanov, based on the eponymous 1923 novel. The film follows Luz, a young inventor who travels to Mars and joins Queen Elita in an uprising against the ruling and despotic elders of Mars. Renowned as one of the most significant examples of early sci-fi, Alita remains a prominent and influential film in the ambitious genre. It predated some of the most well-known sci-fi efforts by several years and features one of the earliest depictions of space travel in cinema. Alita might not be as famous as other silent sci-fi films, but its contributions to the genre are immeasurable. Number 9. The Hands of Orlok in 1924. Cinema has produced multiple bizarre and grotesque body horror movies, and they owe a great deal to the 1924 Australian film, The Hands of Orlok. The story follows a world-famous pianist who loses his hands in an accident, despite he agrees to a transplant procedure. But the hands he receives are those of the murderer. Expertly blending horror and silent fiction, The Hands of Orlok is creepy and tense, surrounded by a near unbearable atmosphere of dread, heightened by the film's silent quality, anchored by a Konrad Witt's powerful performance. The Hands of Orlok is a delirious and nightmarish trip into the darkest side of the science fiction. Number 8. A Trip to Mars in 1918. The 1980 Danish film A Trip to Mars is a groundbreaking project in cinematic science fiction. Perhaps the first space opera in cinema, the film features a human expedition to Mars, where they find a peaceful, wise, and vegetarian civilization that evolved past the many conflicts plaguing Earth. Although it might seem dated under the modern eye, A Trip to Mars is a fascinating piece of cinematic history, surprisingly trailblazing in its portrayal of space travel. The film sacrifices an engaging narrative plot in favor of its then stunning visuals. However, A Trip to Mars remains a crucial entry in the science fiction canon and a worthy viewing experience for fans of the genre. Number 7. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in 1920. Robert Louis Stevenson's classic Gothic novella has received multiple adaptations since the early 19th OOs. However, John S. Robertson's 1920 adaptation starring John Barrymore remains among the most well-known. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde adapts the novella faithfully, presenting the dangerous consequences of Jekyll's experiments. Suitably atmospheric and often terrifying, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a showcase for John Barrymore, who delivers a pair of memorable performances in the titular roles. The movie is now in the public domain, and its most famous scenes, Jekyll's transformation into Mr. Hyde, remains an iconic moment in silent film. Number 6. Frankenstein, 1910. Mary Shelley's seminal novel Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, received its first on-screen adaptation in 1910, directed by J. Searle Dooley. Loosely inspired by Shelley's novel, the film stars Augustus Phillips as Victor Frankenstein and Charles Stanton Ogle as the monster. Frankenstein was believed to be a lost film until its rediscovery in the early 60s. It is among the greatest horror movies of the silent era, with the scene of the monster's creation ranking as one of the most vivid and striking moments in silent film. Frankenstein severely changes the novel's plot, but excels as a worthy story inspired by Shelley's game-changing classic. Number 5. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 1960. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Stuart Payton's adaptation of Jules Verne, eponymous 1870 novel, remains one of the most significant silent movies, incorporating elements from another Verne novel, The Mysterious Island. The film follows Captain Nemo, commander of the Nautilus, who seeks vengeance against the men who drove his wife to suicide and caused his daughter's disappearance. Famous for its groundbreaking shooting techniques, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is an admirable attempt at capturing the unyielding might of Verne's classic, showing striking visuals of a marine life and featuring a fantastical adventure. The film was groundbreaking for World War I audiences looking for escapism from the harsh realities of real life. Number 4. The Lost World, 1925. Harry O. Hoyt's 1925 adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World is among the most famous silent films. The plot follows Professor Challenger, who leads an expedition to the Amazon, where he claims dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures are alive and thriving. The Lost World features pioneering visual effects by Mr. Willis O'Brien, who took stop motion to another league with 1933's King Kong. The film was boundary-pushing, dazzling audiences with visual effects beyond anything seen up to that point. The Lost World remains highly influential today, holding up as an exciting sci-fi adventure. Number 3. Woman in the Moon in 1929. Fritz Lang is arguably the most significant director in early science fiction, producing two of the genre's most influential entries during the silent era. His 1929 German sci-fi Woman in the Moon follows an ambitious scientist who uses a rocket to reach the moon in hopes of discovering riches. Released as a rocket to the moon in the US, Woman in the Moon was the first mainstream depiction of rocket travel, thus inspiring an entire generation of film lovers. The movie cemented Lang as one of the cinema's most daring directors and confirmed science fiction as a legitimate genre deserving of a permanent place in the medium. Number 2. A Trip to the Moon in 1902. George Méliès stands next Fritz Lang as one of the most revolutionary and important directors in sci-fi history. His contribution to the genre was significant and immeasurable, thanks to his most famous short film. In 1902, A Trip to the Moon, the film follows a group of scientists who travel to the moon and return to Earth with a moon prisoner after narrowly escaping from an underground group of hostile moon inhabitants. Humorous yet forward-thinking, A Trip of the Moon is among the most influential and recognizable films in cinematic history. It is arguably the first major science fiction big screen effort, inspiring and influencing countless future movies. A Trip to the Moon is a definition of a trailblazing effort, the first of its kind of push audiences' imaginations and dare them to look up and dream of the countless possibility lurking in space. And at last, number 1, Metropolis in 1927. Fritz Lang's 1927 masterpiece, Metropolis, is possibly the all-time best science fiction movie. Based on the eponymous 1925 novel, the plot is set in a world divided into a wealthy utopia, inhabited by the wealthy and ruling class, built above a grim underworld occupied by exploited workers. When a privileged young man discovers the worker living conditions, he joins a beautiful teacher in her rebellion against the ruling class. Metropolis is a fascinating and riveting sci-fi epic that ranks among the most important films ever, famous for its depiction of societal unrest, Art Deco-inspired visuals, and a strong political undertone. Metropolis is also well known for its depiction of the Maschinenmensch, one of cinema's earliest robots, a technical marvel in every sense of the word. Metropolis is a triumph of silent cinema and the bleak, dystopian depiction of the future that continues to resonate today.